Logitech's G915 TKL offers a completely wireless mechanical typing experience, utilizing Logitech's well-known Lightspeed tech to offer low-latency gaming responses and a compact, low-profile mechanical switch-based keyboard. The G915 TKL's premium price point definitely sits at the top of Logitech's line, and while there's simply just keyboards out there that are much cheaper and similar specs, Logitech's Lightspeed tech simply leads the way. Where the price will still steer many away, the G915 is simply one of the better out-of-the-box wireless gaming keyboards you can get at the current moment. My name's Adrian for Digital Dojos, and this is my full review of Logitech's G915 TKL keyboard. So, the keyboard in itself, it is the G915 line from Logitech. It comes in a full-size variant, or the TKL, which I'll be reviewing today. That stands for Tenkeyless, essentially meaning they cut the number pad off, so you get a smaller form factor keyboard, a more tightly packed kind of design, and that's definitely the case here with the G915 specifically. Now, I recently made the decision to upgrade to the G915 TKL for a couple reasons. One, I love that TKL format. I was previously using the Logitech G Pro wired edition here, similar format. However, after this started having sporadic issues with keys and whatnot, I decided it was time to upgrade. And I had originally wanted the G915 TKL specifically when I first built my gaming workstation PC about a year ago. However, due to the pandemic, it was just completely out of stock. And last but not least, it's the added convenience of the wireless aspect, and that may be why you're getting something like the G915, because it's completely wireless. Now with that, it demands a more premium price point, even by a mass manufacturer like Logitech standards. It is coming in at $200 to $225 depending on the model and where you get it at and the variant in which you get. But this by no means is a cheap keyboard. I know Reddit/r/mechanical keyboards can definitely spend way more on keyboards, but this is from a mass manufacturer like Logitech, who is definitely aiming for a different market there and customer. Now, in terms of design, you can get this keyboard in two variants. You can get it in white or black. Variant of switches that you want to get with this. You have three options. You can get the GL Tactile, the GL Clicky, or the GL Linear. These are Logitech's branded switches. They're basically Kale switches rebranded, if I'm not mistaken. And the way it breaks down is essentially the GL Tactile, which is the keyboard I'm currently reviewing and looking at, is more of a subdued, gentle feedback. It's a tactile feedback at the point of actuation, meaning like when you click it all the way down, you get that slight bump or that raised feel when you're clicking the key. So again, it still gives you that kind of satisfactory mechanical feel, but in a much more subdued sound and audible feedback. Whereas the GL Clickies, or their blues, are much more accustomed to the typical mechanical sound that you may be used to or have heard, where it's much more audible, definitely louder, and still giving you that tactile feel as well. The GL Linear are more of a smooth keystroke. These are their equivalent of the Reds. Again, three options for you to check out. Logitech has on their site demos. I think it over-exaggerates what they sound like. You're not obviously going to be able to tell the feel, but I think if you can demo these in store at a friend's house, what have you, get a key switcher and to test that out, definitely do that, because it's worth knowing, and you're going to be typing on this thing for a bit and gaming on it and whatnot. You're going to want to know the style and feel that you want to go for. In terms of the actual design aspects of the keyboard, you are getting an aluminum frame here and a overall just very low profile design. The G915, compared to a lot of gaming keyboards, is very thin, sits very flat. I have it next to an MX Keys here, which I think previously, if not still, is kind of one of Logitech's thinnest keyboards out there, and this sits pretty on par there. The difference here is with the G915, you get a very cool kind of floating keycap sort of style and look. They sit above the aluminum frame, and these keycaps are really, really thin. They're not your traditional kind of keycaps that you may be used to. Here it is again, side by side with the G Pro, and you can see it is just a much thinner profile in comparison. So you're getting different, thinner, low profile design with these adjustable switches on the bottom, or stands, I should say, to give you kind of 4 and 8 degree extra angle there. But with that, the keycaps themselves are a much lower profile design. These are ABS plastic keycaps, nothing special. They aren't PBT, so these will kind of wear and tear over time. Again, this is probably my biggest drawback of the keyboard. The keycaps feel the most non-premium at this price point in this overall build. They feel a little bit cheap. I'd say plastically, but I know that's redundant since they are ABS plastic. But with that, with the lower profile nature, It does help in terms of making the LED shine through. That's one thing, since this is a gaming keyboard, you got to have that RGB, and that definitely shines through nicely. I will say, if you're looking to modify or clean or take off these keycaps, these switches and the mechanisms in which they lock are very tricky. I would definitely be careful. This isn't a keyboard where like Logitech gives you a keycap pull or remover, but if you ever have to do that for whatever reason, definitely be gentle as you remove these, because these can easily break. Now, with that, it's a standard QWERTY layout. You have your function keys in the top row, and then you have a bunch of extra feature keys in the top left to switch between the Lightspeed Tech, which is that USB receiver. You also have Bluetooth in this keyboard to pair with other devices outside your main one, like a mobile device or another computer. You have gamer mode, which essentially disables the Windows key while you're gaming, so you don't accidentally alt-tab out. Your brightness LED button to adjust that, and then you have media keys in the top right, so play, pause, mute, and then a scroll wheel, which is a free spinning scroll wheel. So it's a nice little addition if you want to have just adjustment over your volume at a simple physical button. So with that, let's talk tech specs of this keyboard. Again, the big driver here is that it is wireless. It is utilizing Logitech Lightspeed Tech, which is just the kind of king of the crop when it comes to wireless standards and gaming peripherals. In years past, it was known that it was taboo to kind of have wireless gaming accessories just for at the top level for gamers due to input lag or latency, meaning like the time it takes for you to hit something and the signal to process on your computer. It was always said that like wired just offered much better response times. With Lightspeed from Logitech, it's really changed the game and redefined what that means, because now you have wireless peripherals, whether it's a mouse or keyboard, that are on par, if not better, with certain wired peripherals out there, and just, all pun intended, Lightspeed ahead of things like Bluetooth and other, wireless receivers out there. So when it comes to the technical specs, you're really buying it for that Lightspeed technology. Yes, you have the LED backlit here. In terms of battery life, since it is a wireless keyboard, you should expect about 30 to 40 hours at max brightness. Your mileage will vary. I tend to play with lower brightness, if not no LEDs at all. So again, much nicer and much longer battery life, like 3 to 4 days, give or take. It takes about 3 to 4 hours to charge when it is fully depleted. You can still use it in game while it's on a wired mode, so that's one thing to note. One thing though, it is a micro USB port that it comes with. It's not USB-C, which would have been nice to see, especially because on their lower peripherals that aren't as premium, they're already adopting USB-C. So again, would have been nice to see here in the G915. Now, with that, let's talk typing experience, because at the end of the day, when it comes to gaming and what you're going to be using this for, you're going to be typing on it at some capacity. The G915 TKL offers that lower profile design, which allowed my wrist to sit more even and flat, which I actually preferred when it came to typing on this. Due to that lower nature, I felt as if I was more comfortable when I was typing on a keyboard like this, and out of the box, I felt like there was a lower learning curve. When you get new keyboards, and I've typed on a bunch, I have like Apple's traditional wireless. On my Office, I use a Keychron K2 here, and there's a bunch of adjustments that you have to get used to when typing on specific keyboards, especially because I switch between Mac OS and Windows. With the G915 TKL, I picked it up right out of the box. If anything, I was more accurate when typing, and I don't know if that's just due to the lower profile of the keys and the nature of the design, but I just felt like out of the box, again, a really low learning curve, which is really great because it allowed me to just jump into gaming and whatnot very easily. Now, when it comes to gaming, what makes a quote-unquote gaming keyboard? There are certain features, maybe sometimes there are certain buttons for like things like macros and whatnot, but at the end of the day, it's, convenience features. Nothing is a quote-unquote gaming keyboard. Technically, I can use this Apple keyboard to game. There's ergonomics to it. There's convenience in terms of tech behind it, but at the end of the day, they're all the same layout. They're all the same keys, right? So with those features aside, like macros and whatnot, the Lightspeed tech is really what helps us shine in terms of like a gaming aspect, right? Because you don't want that latency, you don't want those input lags and response times and misclicks and whatnot. And you can really rely on the Lightspeed technology when it comes to Logitech. It's just simply the cream of the crop. There's a lot more smarter people than me at Artings or Ratings and Linus Tech Tips who have done videos on Lightspeed tech to show how on par it is nowadays. So definitely check those out if you're interested. But at the end of the day, is it going to make you a better gamer? No, by any means. It just added convenience of having the wireless peripherals while still maintaining that standard of like response time and whatnot. But for some of you out there, you may not care. Like some of you don't care about response times or input lag or whatnot. And that's totally by all means understandable. There's a lot of other cheaper Logitech keyboards that offer the same Lightspeed tech. This is just one that's packaged in a more premium design. So with that, you know, the GL Tactile specifically were the switch I had to kind of get used to coming off of clickies or blues. I do have brown switches in my Keychron keyboard, but this was just a really kind of different feel, right? It was something in between, you know, like a tactile clicky switch and a more subdued, like almost mushier kind of feel. I got used to it and I type pretty fast on this. I type definitely more accurate on a keyboard like this overall. And that's what you all come here for, right? Those sound tests. So without further ado, let's go ahead and for your listening pleasure, show you how the G915 TKL sounds. Again, keeping in mind, these were all tested on my GL Tactile, so the brown switch is equivalent. Obviously, it's going to sound different on the GL Clickies or GL Linears. The biggest con for me in using this keyboard, if anything, really just came down to the build quality. I just felt like those keycaps and just really just overall at the price point you're paying for were the biggest downside to all of this. The frame felt great. There's not a lot of flex. It's a really solid build overall. The wireless tech is amazing. Those function keys are nice and those feature keys. It's just these keycaps. I can tell over time like these being something that would wear down or cause issues. The biggest pro, however, again, lies in that of the Lightspeed tech. For gamers and users alike, it's what sets the keyboard apart. Implemented in both their mice and keyboards, there's a reason why their Lightspeed tech kind of leads the way when it comes to performance on a wireless level for gaming and just overall input responses. It's also worth mentioning here on the software side of things, Logitech, unlike some alternatives out there in the space, offer a full software suite built in. So if you're already in the Logitech ecosystem, G-Hub is going to be there for you to allow you to rebind macros and keys, customize LED profiles, adjust other settings on the keyboard. Whereas some cheaper alternatives like Keychron, which are definitely alternatives out there that are worth checking out, don't have like full software suites. Razer tends to have their own, other mass manufacturers like Corsair have their own, and Logitech just has it within G-Hub. So all in all, and in conclusion, and me using the G915 TKL over the last month or so that I've owned it, it's a keyboard that I think will still scare many off due to its overall price point, and rightfully so. At $200+, I feel Logitech could have offered more premium options and things in this, whether it was a keycaps or stabilizers, or I don't know, maybe that's asking a little bit too much for a mass manufactured keyboard. I think enthusiasts, do-it-yourself, Reddit/r/mechanical keyboard users will definitely cringe at some of the build aspects and pricing that goes into a keyboard like this. But for the ideal customer, the ideal market, for those who simply want to pay for the convenience of having something that will work out of the box, that they know is one of the top tier out there, the G915 lineup, whether it's the TKL edition or not, is something you can't go wrong with, right? It's simply the cream of the crop in terms of low latency, wireless gaming performance, and also getting a mechanical keyboard. You really can look no further than this lineup when it comes to Logitech. Now, that said, if you don't need all the bells and whistles, you don't need all the craziness of, you know, the Lightspeed tech or whatnot, there is a lot of great alternatives. There's Keychron's K1, there's Corsair's K63, there's even great alternatives within Logitech's line to get at a much cheaper alternative if you are on a specific budget. However, at the end of the day, seeing as the accessories that you're going to often most use in your PC setup at the end of the day are your mouse and your keyboard to interface with the PC that you're using, I think it's worth investing in said tools. And I think if you're looking at the best premium out of the box wireless gaming / mechanical experience, then look no further than the